Welcome back to the Pausing Porn podcast. I'm Mark, and today we're diving into a powerful mindset shift that could change the way you approach recovery. What if tracking days away from porn is actually holding you back? Instead of focusing on streaks, I want to introduce a more effective way to measure progress. This is by tracking growth in the areas of your life that matter the most. 99% of the time, you'll see porn addiction recovery communities not just focused on abstinence streaks, but obsessed with them. People use their streak as social credibility, proudly stating that they're X number of days porn free. Then others will use their streak to create a shame ridden back to day zero post in the recovery community. There's also tons of questions around the streak itself. You'll see people post things like, I'm on day 12. Is it still a relapse if I look for 3 seconds? Or do I have to reset my streak if I slipped up but didn't watch porn? Honestly, it's understandable why streaks are so prevalent. They're simple, they're trackable, and they make us feel in control. But here's the problem. Streaks don't measure real recovery. In fact, obsessing over streaks can actually cause you to relapse more. Let me explain why. Let's start with one of the most common traps in streak-based recovery, the abstinence violation effect. This is what happens when you slip up and your brain says, well, I already failed, might as well go all in. Instead of learning from the moment and moving forward, you spiral into a binge cycle. Now, building on that, here's another issue. Streaks don't actually rewire your brain, habits do. Recovery is about neuroplasticity, the process of creating new pathways in the brain through repeated behavior. You don't rewire your brain by gritting your teeth and counting days. You rewire it by building daily habits that regulate stress, strengthen your values, and give you connection and purpose. Taking it one step further, even outside of porn recovery, psychologists have shown that avoidance goals don't work well. When your goal is just don't relapse, it creates anxiety, shame, and hyper focus on the thing you're trying to avoid. But when your goal is build a better relationship with my partner or develop emotional strength, your brain starts moving toward something. And that forward momentum is way more sustainable. And finally, maybe the most damaging part of streak based thinking is how it fuels shame. When your streak breaks, you feel like you've lost everything, which makes sense. You could have been on day 60, could have been on day 93, and when you relapse, the app that you're tracking your streak shows day 0. This is telling you that you're starting from day 0 all over again. You start thinking, I'm back to 0, I'm a failure. Guys, that is not recovery. That is a shame spiral. And shame is one of the biggest drivers of relapse. So, what should you track instead? Track your growth in the areas that porn has affected the most. This can be with your family, your friends, your romantic relationships, your mental health, physical health, finances or career, spirituality, and fun or hobbies. These are the areas that are most impacted in your life when you start building a life free from porn. This works for a few reasons. Starting with self-determination theory, this is a long-term change that happens when your recovery is fueled by autonomy, which is I'm choosing this, competence, which is I can do this, and connection, which is I'm not alone. Tracking life goals fulfills all of that, and tracking streaks, not so much. Research shows that behavior change sticks when it's identity based, when your actions reflect who you want to become. So instead of saying, I'm 30 days porn free, you say, I'm becoming a more present partner, or I'm someone who handles stress in healthy ways. That is someone who you're becoming without porn, and that's how real change happens. There's a reason I try to be specific in my language on the podcast, saying gain a life free from porn rather than quitting porn. You'll hear a lot of other content creators simply say quitting porn, but to me, quitting porn is the act of not watching porn. Gaining a life free from porn is completely replacing what porn represented in your life with healthier alternatives to give you the life you really wanted. Streaks are for quitting porn. You can track how many days you've not watched porn, and that's it. But tracking goals goes much deeper. Instead of just simply tracking how many days you haven't watched it, you're tracking your progress in the life you're actually looking to build. Let me paint a picture for you. A lot of people go to prison addicted to drugs, and during their sentence, they don't have access to those substances anymore. So they go months, sometimes even years without using. They rack up the ultimate streak, 365 days, 500 days, 1,000 days clean. But when they're released, they relapse even within hours, sometimes days, sometimes weeks, sometimes months. Why is this? It's because they didn't actually heal. They were just in an environment where they couldn't access their addiction, not one where they learned how to manage and recover from it. That's the trap of streak thinking. You can go 90 days, 180 days, 365 days without watching porn. But if all you're doing is white knuckling it, avoiding triggers, and counting the days, you're not building any sort of recovery. You're just surviving. If I got locked in a room early in my recovery for 1 year with no phone, no laptop, no pornography, sure, I would have had a 365-day streak. But I'm telling you, if this was me early in my recovery, the moment I got out and faced real life again with the stress, anxiety, loneliness I was experiencing at the time, I would be right back to square one as to before I went into that room. I would deal with life the same way as I did before, which was escaping through porn. I know I would have relapsed within a few weeks and went right back to my same habits and same behaviors I was doing before. Recovery isn't just about how long you've gone without pornography. It's about how you respond when the urge hits, how you build your life away from porn, and how you're able to replace it with healthier alternatives. You're looking to build a life that you truly want and not one that you feel you have to escape from. In my recovery, I've had plenty of fluke streaks. As I mentioned in the last episode, I had a 50-day streak at one point. I didn't reach 50 days from replacing porn with healthier habits and building skills to actually live the life I wanted. This was just circumstantial. At the time, I just went through a breakup. I was dating this woman for 3 years, and over the course of the last year, the relationship got very toxic. So, about 1 week after the breakup, I started using the dating apps and dating women just became my new escape. I quickly built a massive women from talking on dating apps, and we began talking on a daily basis, and I'd meet some of them on a daily basis. I would say there was probably about 15 women at one point I would talk to every single day. It was so consuming, I just didn't have any time for porn. Porn was just replaced by something that was just as unhealthy for the time being. And as you can imagine, this caused severe burnout. You can't continue talking to 15 different women every single day. So I cut down the amount of women I was talking to. And in the meantime of this streak, I would still fantasize frequently over the thought of porn, and I'd continue other unhealthy addiction related behaviors. However, the streak continued. The streak continues because it doesn't measure real growth, it just measures if you're watching porn or not. Then, as I mentioned in my last episode, when I hit day 50, I relapsed and I went into a daily binge of porn for the next 3 months or so. Over the course of the 50 days, my recovery community would look at this and would see, hey, Mark's doing great. My best streak before was not even a month long. It looks like I'm doing the right things and I'm healing. However, I didn't heal whatsoever during this time, and I just further hurt myself. If you're listening right now and you've been obsessed with your streak, let's take a pause. Grab your journal or open blank note on your phone. I'm going to walk you through an exercise to shift focus from just staying clean and counting a streak to actually building a better life. In step one, I want you to write down the key areas where porn tends to have the greatest impact. This is your mental health, physical health, relationships with family, friends, or romantic, career or finances, spirituality, and fun and hobbies. In step two, I want you to ask yourself, in what ways has porn negatively affected each of these areas? For physical health, you can say porn drains my energy, so I skip workouts. For friendships, you could say porn causes shame and I isolate from my friends. I want you to take a look at the impact on each category and write this down. Now for step 3, in each area, write down one small actionable goal that would help you move forward, even if it's just a baby step. With physical health, it could be going for a walk 15 minutes each day. With relationships, romantic relationships specifically, you could say, I want to have quality time with my partner for 30 minutes each day. Or finances can be sticking to a $20 a day food budget. Make these goals small, measurable, and doable. Now, here's the challenge. For the next 7 days, don't track your porn streak. Instead, track how many of these goals you complete each day. You can create a simple checklist or journal and check in with your goals and see if you followed them or not. And remember, each check mark is progress, and that is what real recovery is actually built on. At the end of the week, I want you to review how you feel. Are you more connected? Do you feel more in control? Do you feel more hopeful? This is the real progress, not a number of how many days you haven't watched porn in a row, but how you're building the true life that you want that is free from porn. If you've been stuck counting days and feeling like you're always starting over, I hope this episode gives you a better way forward. Like I said, recovery is not about streaks. It's about building a life you don't want to escape from and one that you actually want. A life that is fulfilling and a life that porn has no involvement in. If this helped you, share it with someone else in recovery, and I'll see you in the next episode.